Welcome to Severe Weather Outlooks. This is normally something I would use a lot in the spring and in the summer, but it does occasionally come up in the winter. And while this isn't a huge severe weather threat, it is worth talking about to a certain extent, especially for some areas. So we'll start by looking at Wednesday's official forecast from the Storm Prediction Center. This is the lowest of the 5 categories of the so-called marginal risk of severe weather that cuts into the heart of Oklahoma and goes down into parts of north central and western Texas. And this is primarily a wind and hail threat. And it looks pretty isolated. Don't see a tornado risk with this really much at all. So this is Tuesday I'm recording this. So this is tomorrow, Wednesday's forecast. And of course, these are revised several times throughout the day in many cases, so I'll be watching this very carefully for an upgrade. I did want to give you a background for Thursday. Now we're moving ahead one day. This is the ensemble GFS showing the 500 millibar flow and the mean of all the ensembles. So ensembles are just when the model is run multiple times, slightly changing the initial parameters and then taking the average essentially. So what this does show is a very strong 500 millibar jet stream core right here that's passing through what we would call a shortwave trough. And so this is producing a lot of bulk shear, so a lot of shear change in wind speed from the surface of the earth up until this level and even higher. So that is always some cause for concern. In the wintertime, often you get high shear, low instability setups. And if we look at the instability, next slide, it's meager at best. This is CAPE, one of the, just the standards that's used to measure instability. There are others, but this one's a good sort of, just like the 500 millibar is a good kind of general look. The CAPE is a good kind of general look too. And you'll notice very meager amounts that really don't go very far to the north here. That could change, of course. In East Texas, there's a little bit of CAPE. Again, with high shear, it's not necessary to get these CAPE values up very high, but this is actually pretty pathetic, not very good. Even though the surface moisture and the dew points are going to be in the 60s down there, so that's actually favorable, but the lapse rates are not there. So if we look at the SPC's outlook for this very same day, Thursday now, it's a broad brush that comes from central Missouri straight down through all of Arkansas into parts of east and northeast Texas, including eastern Oklahoma, and maybe late in the period on Thursday over into the Memphis area. So that is a larger area, still the lowest of all the rankings, basically. If we look at CSU's learning model, this is Colorado State University, and this breaks down each of the parameters. So there is a little bit of a tornado indicator here, a 2% chance in that 24-hour period that ends on Friday morning, which is always the case with these outlooks. They end the next morning, so they do cover the nighttime of Thursday and the overnight hours as well. But again, all these parameters, the tornado, the hail, and the wind, are all pretty low. But the fact that the tornado parameter even shows up means that the wind shear is there, and that's bulk wind shear. For tornadoes, you need a low-level wind shear to be correct. And there's some indication that could be the case. So it's something worth watching. But, it's one of those, let's just see what happens. I can pretty much guarantee that it's a low episode event. It's not going to create widespread severe weather, but it is possible. And then the last thing I want to show you, actually 2 things. This is going ahead to Friday. So the Storm Prediction Center has pulled the trigger on a 15% chance of any severe within a 25-mile radius. That covers eastern Arkansas, big cities like Memphis, Jackson, Mississippi, down into the heart of Louisiana, and maybe not quite to Nashville, but getting into certainly western Tennessee as well. And the last thing we'll look at is that same CSU probability. It changes its look after day 3. So the SPC's forecast that I just showed you is right there. And just basically looking at any severe very strongly matches the SPC forecast, which is the case a lot of times when you get beyond day 3. So that's your outlook and update. I will, of course, keep monitoring this, and it's always possible that something will get upgraded when we get closer to the events, probably a slight risk somewhere in all those days I talked about. So we're talking about Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. I'll keep an eye on it for you and bring you further updates.